Okay, let's unpack this. Today, we're embarking on a really captivating deep dive into a foundational text. It's influenced millions. Norman Vincent Peale's classic, The Power of Positive Thinking.
Indeed. And our source material for this deep dive, it outlines a very direct, sort of simple mission.
Which is?
To suggest techniques, provide examples, basically demonstrating that you don't need to be defeated by anything. The promise here, from Peale's perspective, it's pretty profound.
Like what specifically?
Well, peace of mind, for one, improved health, a never-ceasing flow of energy, and, a life full of joy and satisfaction.
That sounds like a tall order, doesn't it? But he claims it's achievable.
He does. He asserts that these benefits are based on, and this is his phrase, bona fide demonstrations in actual human experience.
Okay, so our mission for you, the listener, is to pull out the most important nuggets of knowledge. Maybe some surprising facts, too. Give you a shortcut to understanding how these claims are presented and, more importantly, how they supposedly work. Let's start with something Peale identifies as a huge challenge for so many people. Self-doubt. He actually calls it a malady.
Yeah, and what's fascinating here is just the scale he suggests. The book mentions a survey, I think it was university students, and a staggering 75% listed lack of confidence as their toughest personal problem. So this feeling of inadequacy, Peale argues, it's really widespread.
And where does he think it comes from?
Often from childhood experiences, he says. Maybe, being constantly compared to a sibling who got all the A's, or even something subtle like a childhood nickname.
Like the one he had?
Skinny.
Exactly. He shares that himself, how it stuck with him.
And it's not just kids, right? There was that executive example.
Right. The one who talked too much. Not out of arrogance, but apparently from this subconscious need to compensate for feeling inferior about his background. So if this self-doubt is a malady, what's the core prescription Peale offers? What's the fix?
The fundamental cure, as the source describes it, is to cultivate creative faith in yourself. That's the term he used.
Creative faith, okay.
And that, he says, then leads to self-realization and successful achievement. It's really about this core belief that your potential is bigger than your limitations seem. That belief itself is the fuel.
That concept, creative faith, it sounds incredibly powerful. But for someone just starting out, maybe feeling overwhelmed by doubt, what's the most practical first step Peale suggests? To really internalize that, beyond just wanting to believe it?
He suggests an immediate formula, like a powerful affirmation to start with.
Okay, what is it?
For him, it was repeating the statement, I can do all things through Christ, which strengtheneth me. That's Philippians 4.13. He calls it a magic statement.
Wow, a magic statement.
Yeah, and he claims it's, quote, the most powerful antidote to inferiority thoughts on earth.
And he backs that up with a story, right? The businessman.
Yes, exactly. A businessman who used this simple formula, and apparently it did wonders for him in some desperate business deal.
But is it just about repeating the words? Like reciting a mantra? Or is there more to the practice?
Oh, there's definitely more. Peale really emphasizes thought disciplining.
Thought disciplining.
Yeah, consciously replacing every negative thought you have about your abilities with a positive one. And also minimizing perceived obstacles, like seeing them for what they are, not blowing them up with fear.
So actively managing your thoughts.
Exactly. It's about flooding your mind with faith, consistently doing that.
Peale seems to offer some really memorable, almost theatrical ways to embody these principles sometimes. Was there an example that particularly jumped out at you for cultivating faith?
Absolutely. There's this story of a traveling salesman. He literally taped Bible verses to his car's instrument panel.
Seriously, on the dashboard?
Yeah, and he'd swap them out as he drove. He was using every spare moment to cram his mind, as Peale puts it, with thoughts of faith and courage.
Wow, that's real commitment. Taping verses to the dashboard, that's a very tangible way to cram your mind, isn't it?
It really is.
And it ties into that Emerson quote too, right? They conquer who believe they can.
Precisely. And Emerson's challenge, do the thing you fear, and the death of fear is certain. Peale really leans into that idea.
Yeah.
And another powerful insight highlighted in the source, this one comes from Dr. Carl Menninger. Peale quotes him saying, attitudes are more important than facts.
Attitudes more important than facts.
The idea is your attitude toward a difficult fact can actually defeat you before you even start. A positive thought pattern, Peale argues, can actually modify or even overcome the fact itself.
So the big insight there isn't about denying reality, is it? It's more about recognizing that Our internal response to reality is often what dictates the outcome, maybe even more than the raw facts themselves.
Exactly. It shifts the locus of control inward.
Okay. And what about influencing other people? The book mentions something kind of intriguing called a vacuum cleaner method. What's that about?
Yes, that's a fascinating one. It's an example of an executive. And the idea is he would suck the dust out of his associates' minds.
Suck the dust.
Metaphorically, by asking questions that drew out their negative attitudes, their worries, and then he'd quietly suggest positive ideas, shifting their perspective.
Ah, okay. So it's about listening first, drawing out the negativity.
Right, acknowledging it in a way, and then gently guiding the conversation towards solutions, towards positive framing, without just dismissing their initial feelings.
That's subtle, but sounds like it could be really effective. The book then lays out 10 specific rules for building self-confidence. We probably can't cover all 10 in detail.
No, probably not.
But were there a few that particularly stood out?
Definitely. Visualizing success and, crucially, never doubting it. That was one. Consciously canceling negative thoughts as they arise.
Like swatting them away.
Sort of, yeah. And then what he calls depreciating obstacles.
Depreciating obstacles, does that mean ignoring them?
Not ignoring them, no. It's more about mentally resizing them. Focusing on the steps you can take, rather than getting paralyzed by how big the whole problem seems.
Makes sense.
He also suggests repeating powerful Bible verses, like, if God be for us, who can be against us? From Romans 8.31. He's suggesting that 10 times daily.
10 times.
Other rules involve things like cultivating self-knowledge, maybe getting competent counseling to understand why you have self-doubt. And then this interesting one, estimate your ability, then consciously raise it by 10%. Just decide you're 10% more capable.
Interesting mental trick. Okay, so if self-doubt is like a quiet drain, Peale identifies worry as something much worse, right? Almost a choking force on our well-being.
Exactly. He calls worry an unhealthy and destructive mental habit. Even quotes a psychiatrist calling it the great modern plague.
Wow.
And the word worry itself, he points out, comes from an old Anglo-Saxon word that means to choke, which is such a vivid illustration, isn't it? How it cuts off vital power.
It really is. And he links it to physical issues, too.
Yeah.
Like arthritis.
Yeah, he makes that connection, suggesting it can manifest physically.
So what's the antidote, then? How do you break free from this mental chokehold?
The antidote, according to the source, is cultivating a mind full of peace. That's the goal. And the essence of overcoming worry, Peale writes, is fundamentally changing your mental attitude.
Right. And the practical techniques he suggests are quite memorable again. He talks about emptying the mind.
Yes, emptying it of fears, hates, guilt feelings. He compares it to pouring out your worries to a trusted friend.
And wasn't there that example of the man on the ship?
That's right. Every evening at sunset, he'd mentally imagine just dropping all his worries overboard into the sea. A symbolic release.
Okay, so you empty the mind. What's the next step? Just leave it empty.
No, that's crucial. Once it's emptied, you have to immediately refill it. Fill it with creative, healthy thoughts, faith, hope, courage. The idea is to leave no room for worry to creep back in.
He suggests some daily practices for this.
Simple things, yeah. Morning rituals, like just repeat, I believe 3 times when you wake up. Or affirm, Psalm 118.24, this is the day which the Lord hath made, I will rejoice and be glad in it. But say it with a positive tone, really feel it. He claims that can shift your psychology for the whole day.
And this wastebasket ritual, that's another one that sticks in your mind. Such a vivid, almost theatrical way to let go.
It really is. Peale tells the story of this businessman who broke his worry habit doing this every single day.
What does he do again?
He'd tear off the day's calendar page, roll it into a ball, drop it in the wastebasket, and say a little prayer. Lord, the day is over and I'm through with it, so I'm giving it back to you. Amen.
Wow.
It symbolizes, forgetting those things which are behind. A very concrete action to represent letting go.
It also seems to highlight the importance of managing our pace, doesn't it? The book suggests a lot of worry comes from just living too fast.
Precisely. Much fuming and fretting, the source says, comes from an accelerated pace of life.
And there's that slightly amusing doctor's prescription.
Oh, yeah. For the aggressive businessman, take a half day a week in a cemetery.
A cemetery. Why?
To ponder mortality, apparently. Gain some perspective on what really matters.
That's certainly one way to slow down.
Definitely. But other suggestions are simpler. Just consciously slowing down your pace, practicing physical stillness, even speaking calming words to your muscles and joints, like, the peace of God is touching you.
Okay, so we've looked at building inner strength, finding peace.
Hmm.
How does this connect to our actual energy levels? Peale has some surprising insights there too, right? He suggests our vitality isn't just about sleep.
Right. He argues it comes from tapping into a higher power. It's the emotional upheaval, he says, not necessarily hard work, that truly drains our energy most of the time.
He uses that clock analogy.
Yeah, the electric clock comparison. Plug it in, it runs indefinitely. Unplug it, it stops. Simple as that. And similarly, Peale asserts that, quote, contact with God establishes within us a flow of the same type of energy that recreates the world.
That's a really powerful image. So, how do we plug in then, according to Peale? How do we access this energy?
Well, through things like scriptural affirmations. He gives the example of the baseball pitcher, Frank Hiller.
Right, on the mound.
Yeah, literally renewing his strength by reciting Isaiah 40.31. But they that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. Hiller apparently said he passed a powerful energy-producing thought through my mind.
So the thought itself generated energy.
That's the idea, and it connects to what Peale calls the prayerize, picturize, actualize formula for solving problems.
Okay, break that down. Prayerize.
First, prayerize. Talk to God or whatever you conceive as a higher power daily, like a close partner.
Got it. Picturize.
Second, picturize. Hold a really clear mental image of the outcome you desire. See it vividly in your mind.
Actualize.
Third, actualize. See the desired result coming to pass as you work diligently towards it. It's not passive waiting, it's active faith combined with effort.
And he gives examples of this working.
He does. A woman who apparently saved her marriage using this method, and a businessman who rescued his failing company. He described it as effecting a merger with God, and then this new business idea just popped up in his mind like toast popping in a toaster.
Like that in a toaster.
Yeah.
That really underscores the idea, from his perspective at least, that divine inspiration can be very, very practical.
It does. And then there are the flash prayers.
Flash prayers, what are those?
This idea comes from Frank Laubach. It's the practice of shooting quick prayers or positive thoughts at people you pass on the street, just sending out thoughts of goodwill and love.
Interesting. Why do that?
Peale believes the human brain, with its 2 billion little storage batteries, he calls them, can literally send out power through thoughts and prayers. He tells the story about an alcoholic.
The one who recovered.
Yes.
Oh.
And Peale suggests it was because both he and Peale himself were, unknowingly, sending out prayers for him at the same time, completing some kind of spiritual circuit.
Wow. Quite a concept.
And central to all of this, really, is the idea of mustard seed faith from the Bible verse, Matthew 17.20, meaning that even a tiny amount of genuine faith, the size of a mustard seed, can move mountains, which Peale interprets as any and all problems you might face.
And there's that anecdote about the guy who actually carried one.
Yeah, Maurice Flint carried a literal mustard seed in his wallet or something just to remind himself of this principle.
Yeah.
And Peale recounts that, well, his problems got solved.
Okay, let's shift gears slightly to happiness and relationships. Peale makes a pretty surprising claim here, doesn't he? That a lot of our unhappiness is self-inflicted.
It's a stark claim, yeah. He says a very large proportion of the unhappiness of the average individual is self-manufactured.
Oh, so?
By thinking unhappy thoughts, basically. Harboring resentment, ill will, hate. These things, he argues, create our inner state of unhappiness.
So the path to happiness isn't about waiting for external circumstances to change.
Not primarily, no. It involves cultivating a specific happiness habit, a habit of mind.
So it's not about wishing for happiness, but actively practicing it. How does he suggest doing that?
He suggests consciously making a mental list of happy thoughts, things you're grateful for, positive memories, and then deliberately pass them through your mind daily.
And if unhappy thoughts creep in?
Immediately eject them, he says, and substitute a happy one from your list. It's about actively cultivating a happiness psychology, especially at the start of each day.
You're right, it's about active cultivation. And there's that memorable story of the man on the train.
Oh, yeah. Who just simply said, I make it a habit to be happy.
Such a simple line, but it really encapsulates Peale's idea, doesn't it? That happiness is something you cultivate, like any other habit.
Exactly. And then there's the Way to Happiness card.
Right, the friend who carried a business card with this philosophy on it. Can you remind us what it said?
Sure. It reads, keep your heart free from hate, your mind from worry. Live simply, expect little, give much. Fill your life with love, scatter sunshine, forget self, think of others. Do as you would be done by.
And the punchline.
Try this for a week and you will be surprised. Peale presents it as the simple yet astonishingly effective method for happy living.
Moving to relationships, the book emphasizes appreciation.
Right. Hugely. It says one of the deepest drives of human nature is the desire to be appreciated. And to be liked, Peale suggests you need to be a comfortable person.
Comfortable, meaning what?
Easygoing, natural, genial, not putting on airs. And he highlights remembering names as key, mentioning James A. Parley, the former Postmaster General who was famous for it.
And it's not just about being polite or remembering names, is it? It's deeper than that, about genuinely building others up.
Absolutely. Peale advises against deflating other people's egos. Instead, actively build them up. Tell people things like, I believe in you, you have great possibilities.
He mentions a college president told him that.
Yes, and it had a lasting impact on him. The golden rule of relationships here, as Peale presents it, is basically, whomever you help to build up and become a better, stronger, finer person will give you his undying devotion.
So helping others grow actually strengthens their connection to you.
That's the idea. And the ultimate secret to being liked, Peale states, is to get a deep spiritual experience yourself. Because then you genuinely have something positive, something strengthening to give to people. Give them strength, and they'll respond with affection.
Okay, let's talk about healing. The book makes a really powerful connection between our minds, our emotions, and our physical health. It really drives home this idea of psychosomatic illness.
It does, and what's fascinating is Peale's assertion that it's often not a question of whether an illness is physical or emotional, but how much of each.
Implying most illnesses have components of both.
Exactly, and he specifically calls out things like hate and resentment, saying they can produce actual physical afflictions. There's that story of the author.
The one with the throat condition?
Yes, developed from bitterness, apparently. And Peale recounts that it only cleared up when the author consciously chose forgiveness.
So the recommendation isn't to ditch medical science, right? It's more about combining approaches.
Absolutely. Combine the best of medical science with the wisdom of, well, what Peale calls spiritual science. He describes physicians in the source who aren't just prescribing medicine, but also suggesting Bible verses or inspirational books to help heal their patients' sick thoughts and emotions.
It's a holistic view of healing, really.
Very much so. And related to that is living with what he calls easy power. Basically combating tension, which he calls the prevailing malady of modern life.
And how do you do that? What are the techniques?
Things like having a dedicated 15-minute daily quiet time. He gives an example of a businessman and his wife who would meditate together and affirm God's strength during this time.
Even famous busy people did this.
Apparently so. People like Roger Babson and Dale Carnegie are mentioned as retreating to empty churches for short periods of prayerful meditation just to recharge. Even simple things, like a doctor using traffic jams as a moment to close his eyes and relax, finding those pockets of stillness.
And the spiritual healing aspect, Peale presents it as quite literal, doesn't he? A tangible force.
He really does. He gives these remarkable examples, like a woman whose osteoma, that's a bone tumor, reportedly disappeared after she read the Bible and felt this inward feeling of warmth.
Oh.
And stories of heart attack patients making extraordinary recoveries, which Peale attributes to them combining their medical advice with consciously surrendering themselves to the recuperative power of God through faith.
So it's presented as faith working alongside, or perhaps enhancing medical treatment.
Exactly. Peale presents these as powerful examples of that mind-body connection and the profound impact faith can have, but emphasizes they happened within the context of appropriate medical care where applicable.
Okay, let's bring it all together. The core transformation this book promises, this idea of an inflow of new thoughts changing everything.
Right. And this brings us back to that foundational idea from the psychologist William James, which Peale highlights as truly significant.
Which was?
The greatest discovery of my generation is that human beings can alter their lives by altering their attitudes of mind.
Simple but profound. As you think, so shall you be.
Exactly. It boils down to a simple law, as Peale sees it. Think negatively, you get negative results. Think positively, you achieve positive results. He distills it down to just 3 words, really.
Which are?
Believe and succeed.
So how does this transformation actually happen, according to the book? What's the process?
The process described is twofold. First, flush out all old, tired, worn-out thoughts. Get rid of the negativity, the limiting beliefs.
Okay, and second?
Second, fill your mind with fresh, new creative thoughts of faith, love, and goodness. Consciously replace the old with the new.
And he gives an example of this.
Yeah, he recounts an anecdote about a business executive who found this secret in Psalm 27, specifically verses 1 and 3. The Lord is the strength of my life. In this will I be confident. And Peale illustrates how internalizing this led to the executive overcoming every problem he faced.
So the idea that an obstacle is permanent is basically, a mental construct.
Yeah. Largely, yes. Peale's whole "I don't believe in defeat" philosophy suggests that most obstacles are primarily mental. And by replacing that ingrained idea of inability with something like, "I can do all things through Christ," or a similar powerful positive affirmation, the book claims astonishing results start to happen.
And to really drive this home, there's that powerful case study at the end, right? The alcoholic.
Yes, a very compelling story. A man who struggled with alcoholism for 25 years. He found recovery, Peale explains, by first admitting his powerlessness, but then actively drawing upon what he termed the higher power, which, for him and Peale, meant God.
And he became sober.
Became a sober man, yes. And Peale uses this as the ultimate proof point, arguing that if this power can overcome something as difficult as chronic alcoholism, then surely it can help you overcome any other form of defeat you might be facing. So we've covered a remarkable amount of ground in this deep dive, haven't we? From the really subtle ways our minds can undermine us, all the way to these, profound practices that Peale claims can literally remake our lives.
Yeah.
What's really fascinating, I think, is how the source material consistently ties together these mental attitudes, spiritual practices, and tangible, real-world results.
Yeah.
From overcoming self-doubt to generating energy, even influencing physical health.
And here's where it gets really interesting, I think.
Yeah.
The book suggests that this power to transform, it isn't some abstract concept floating out there. It's presented as a deeply personal, practical journey that's available to you.
Right.
The key, at least from Peale's perspective, seems to be a conscious decision, a decision to engage with these principles, to actually, believe and succeed, as he puts it.
Which brings up an important question for you listening right now. If, as Peale asserts, optimistic visualization combined with prayer and faith will inevitably actualize achievement, and if your mind truly holds the potential for these amazing wonders, what specific positive outcome could you begin to visualize and affirm in your own life, starting today? What small daily practice could you commit to, maybe starting this week, to begin drawing upon that higher power he talks about?
Because ultimately, the book's core message, when you distill it down through this deep dive, is pretty simple. You are not powerless. You can choose. You can choose to believe and succeed. So the final thought is, what simple act of faith, however small, will you take this week to start making that choice?